basic technique, the next most important thing is intelligent and purposeful practice. 1,
Many would assume that the typewriter, which transformed the way we have communicated for the past 200 years, was born out of industry, economy, and a need to operate commerce with increased clarity and efficiency.
This is the mark of a good typist. Look at your type sheet. Your copy should not look uneven like this. And don't backspace strike over incorrectly struck letters. Those are errors which you should not have made. Hold your thumb naturally. Not here, but here. Now watch this in slow motion.
To believe so would ignore evidence affirming that the first typewriter was constructed for love. Going back in time, we arrive at the year 1714, and by the grace of God, our trusty and well-beloved subject, Henry Mill, has by his great study, pains, and expense lately invented an artificial machine or method of the impressing or transcribing of letters, singly or progressively, one after another, as in writing, whereby all writings whatsoever may be engrossed in paper or parchment so neat and exact as not to be distinguished from print. Henry Mill, an English inventor, is recognized as having patented two things in his lifetime, a coach spring and the typewriter. Little is known of his typing machine. It is unknown if he did in fact ever develop such a machine. Fast forward almost 100 years to the year 1808. Pellegrino Turri, an Italian inventor, is a married man who is in love with another much younger woman, the Countess Carolina Fantoni da Fivizzano. Unfortunately, the Countess is affected by an affliction in her early adult years, which slowly erodes her vision until she is blind. While both the Countess and Pellegrino are generations apart and married separately, there is a kinship which has been described by several sources as love for one another. Pellegrino devises a machine. The machine uses movable type, which can be used independently to cast letters upon a black paper. This black paper, also developed by Pellegrino, is the precursor to carbon paper, a revolutionary development unto itself. The machine he creates types in all capital letters, and while little else is known of this typewriter, or of the true nature of Pellegrino and Carolina, some of her original typed letters remain intact today. It is moving to think that a man would create a device to help the blind woman he loves to communicate her thoughts and feelings. Pellegrino must have been terribly upset to learn of Carolina's failing eyesight to go to such lengths for her. One can only imagine what transgressed between these two lovers, dissatisfied within their own marriages, seeking comfort in one another, even if only in the written word. I imagine their conversation prior to the development of the typewriter must have followed something along these lines. My dear, it tears at my heart to learn that you're losing your sight.
I know, my love, how cruel fate has been to me. How can I escape from such misery?
I must put on my thinking cap. Nay, I must lock my caps on, and devise some method for you, my love. There must be some way for your thoughts to re-enter the realm of the visual.
Oh, if only we could shift ourselves from this existence. Let's run away and take control of our lives, together at last.
We both know that what you suggest is impossible. Home is here in Italy, not at the other end of the earth. While we must delete any thoughts of flight from leaving this space, bar the very idea of us parting ways from one another, I will prevail. Be patient. I will insert all my efforts into inventing some contraption which can capture ideas, thoughts, feelings. I won't function normally again until I arrive at an answer.
I know you won't, my love. You will be my savior, our savior. There is no question mark of this, only exclamation points, one after the other, to show how much we truly love each other.
A year after Turri had crafted his typewriter, a boy by the name of Louis Braille was born in the village of Coupvray, France, east of Paris. Louis Braille was only 3 years old in 1812 when, working in his father's workshop, he accidentally plunged his father's leather awl into his eye. the infection spread and completely blinded Louis by the age of 5. A tragic accident set in motion a path which would see Louis one of the first students to ever attend the Royal Institute for Blind Youth in Paris, France. Determined to change how blind people communicate with the world, he developed a system of writing for the blind by the age of 15. By creating impressions of raised dots on paper, Louis had bridged the gap between the blind and the sighted. His system, simply known as Braille, was published in 1824 and slowly became recognized as the international means of blind literacy. In the words of Braille, access to communication, in the widest sense, is access to knowledge, and that is vitally important for us if we, the blind, are not to go on being despised or patronized by condescending sighted people. We do not need pity, nor do we need to be reminded we are vulnerable. We must be treated as equals, and communication is the way this can be brought about. Accolades for the impact Louis Braille's invention has had on the world is eloquently expressed by Helen Keller. We the blind are as indebted to Louis Braille as mankind is to Gutenberg. Without a dot system, what a chaotic, inadequate affair our education would be. Meanwhile, what Pellegrino had set in motion in 1808 was a swelling tsunami of creative writing contraptions. For the next 60 years, the typewriter went through many phases of development, with many designs specifically designed to assist the blind. In 1844, an Englishman by the name of Littledale invented an embossing machine for the blind. The machine could use carbon paper, and while writing an embossed copy for the blind, a carbon impression was also made for those less unfortunate. In 1849, Pierre Foucault, who was blind himself, made a typewriter for the blind, which won a gold medal in France. In 1865, Rasmus Malling Hansen of Denmark, who was reverend and principal of the Royal Institute for the Deaf-Mutes in Copenhagen, invented the Hansen writing ball. This unusual contraption became the first commercially produced typewriter, and was used by the philosopher, cultural critic, poet, and composer Friedrich Nietzsche when his eyesight began to fail. Nietzsche claimed that the typewriter influenced his thoughts. Our writing instruments contribute to our thoughts, which eerily sounds like the precursor to McLuhan's infamous quote, "The medium is the message." Prior to the universal acceptance of Braille as a writing system, William Bell Waite, director of the New York Institution for the Blind, developed a system of reading for the blind using 8 dots, which he called the New York Point System. Furthermore, in 1894, Waite manufactured a typewriter, which he coined the Kaleidograph, designed specifically to type in New York Point. At around this same time, Frank H. Hall, superintendent of the Illinois Institution for the Education of the Blind, developed the Hall Braille Writer, which soon became recognized as the first successful Braille writer, producing embossed dots. Hall's Braille Writer caused Waite's Kaleidograph to fade into obscurity as New York Point was replaced by the more preferred Braille.